Hello and welcome back to Horizon 180. Obviously, a lot of you have been following on an hourly basis what's been happening to the Armenian Turkish protocols, and we're going to talk about that tonight with Vicken, Papazian, ANC Western Region Chair. Vicken, thank you very much for being here. Thousands of people were tuning into Horizon and aspares.com getting hourly updates on what happened Saturday. If you would please recap to us what happened Saturday.
Yeah, well, I mean, first I'd say that it was the culmination of a very bad idea, and the fact that Turkey was never sincere about their desire to normalize relations with Armenia was never more evident than when Turkey, at the last minute, wanted to change the rules, and in essence preconditions, which delayed the process, which I don't believe is a problem, because the whole process to me is a tainted process, naturally. We've spoken at length about this, so I won't go into the details, but ultimately what happened was that the Turkish side wished to extract even more of a price from Armenia prior to the actual signing of the protocol. And in doing so delayed the process until, evidently, according to all reports, Secretary of State Clinton spent considerable time on the phone working with Mr. Nalbandian and his counterpart from Turkey to try and salvage this very bad idea.
There was some rumors or international media speculating that the sides were going to say something after the signing, and then obviously there was no spokesperson, neither side spoke. What was that all about?
Well, evidently, from reports, again, that are fairly reliable, Turkey wanted to make some sort of comment about the situation in Nagorno-Karabakh, and in doing so would have inflamed the Armenians even more. Already we saw President Sarkisian feeling the heat from the people, whether they be in Armenia or the diaspora, about this bad idea to go forward with this protocol. And I think that it would have been, again, even more bitter pill to swallow for him to have to stand up there and listen to Turkey probably, 30 seconds after the document is signed, while, as they say, the ink is still wet on the paper, say something that clearly undermines what he is presenting to the diaspora, that this is done in good faith. But as everyone can see from this process, that Turkey's good faith is not existent. The very fact that the provisions are what they are in the document is more evidence of that.
Before we talk about Turkey's statements after the signatures of the protocols, I want to talk about Secretary of State Clinton. She was there at the signing, and we also know from aspares.com and all the reports that the U.S. State Department, put a lot of pressure on Armenia to pass these, including Matthew Bryza being in Nalbandian's office right before April 24th. Let's talk about the pressure and why.
Well, from the Armenian strategic point, the American strategic point of view, they envision a role for Turkey in the overall region. That would be vis-a-vis the oil in Central Asia and the Caspian Sea, vis-a-vis Iran, vis-a-vis Georgia, vis-a-vis Afghanistan, and so forth. With the production of oil being significantly decreased in the past 20 years, and forecasts being that they would go even further down, the Americans have taken a special interest in oil wherever it may be and controlling the region. So what's interesting to me, Paul, is that everyone involved in this process, except the Republic of Armenia, has thought about their long-term strategic interests. If you look at it, the Turks have said time and time again that we're interested in the 21st century being known as the century of the Turks, the Turkish century. America has such ambitions in the Middle East that they feel that they have to, push forward this protocol and put aside the fact that it's essentially glossing over the crime of genocide and everything associated with the genocide. Everyone involved in this protocol process is looking into the crystal ball, into the future, except for Armenia. The justification we've heard from Armenia is that, well, we're in bad shape, we have to do what we have to do, we have to compromise, we have to give in. There's no other party to this whole process that has taken that attitude. Everyone is looking forward, everyone is looking for gain, and here we are looking for survival of all people, the Turkish government, which less than 100 years ago tried to eradicate us from the face of the earth, and today spends roughly $25 million a year trying to deny and cover up that horrible crime that exists today.
Turkey, before the protocols were signed, was saying that it would not sign these protocols and it would not open the border in the future if the Nagorno-Karabakh Artsakh issue was not resolved. And suddenly 24 hours haven't passed and they've made these announcements again. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, well, I think, again, further evidence that this is not a workable document that has been made in good faith. This is shoved down Armenia's throat. Armenia, unfortunately, has allowed itself to be put in a position where they feel that they have to enter into agreements that no one in their right mind would enter into. And I say that because of the following. The Armenian National Committee logo is One Nation, One Struggle. In order to succeed as a nation, we need vision, and we need clarity, and we need commonality of purpose. And that has to be cultivated over time. And I would argue, and I'll come out and say it, that since the inception of the Second Armenian Republic, we have yet to have a president in Armenia that has understood that has built consensus, that has understood the true meaning of one nation, one struggle.
You mentioned the ANC and, the driving force behind the ANC. As a person watching from the sidelines, I was quite impressed by how thousands upon thousands participated in this dialogue. Thousands turned out for protests. The young people in the community went out on hunger strikes. People attended meetings and have been watching Horizon online in the thousands. It's rather impressive to see such passion. What do you react to the community's involvement?
Well, let me start with the hunger strikers, because I thought they did an incredible job of making their point. It's not easy for 5-6 days to go without any food and simply just survive on water. That took discipline, it took commitment, dedication, and we saw that from these young people. I'm so very proud of these hunger strikers for the commitment they showed. They received a lot of media attention, and rightfully so. And again, I think you saw over 10,000, possibly 15,000 people show up for the demonstration in Beverly Hills. I think that just scratches the surface of the discontent that's out there about these protocols, because everyone has a gut feeling and understands that there's no justification for this. I think, in fact, I will go so far as to say that a lot of people that support the protocol do so because they think they're being patriotic and they don't want to contradict the president, not because they're inclined to believe that a historical commission is a good idea, or that sanctioning or validating international borders that are arbitrarily drawn and which clearly work against the Armenian interests and historical realities is a good thing. I don't think anyone believes that. The only issue for some of these people, and I think it's still misguided, is that this idea that we should never contradict the Armenian government. And the reality is that anytime anyone does something wrong, you have a right to stand up, and I would argue an obligation to stand up and speak. And governments come and go, but the people in the nation exist forever.
And surprisingly, the masses in the diaspora are understanding that these protocols are not serving Armenia, and they've been speaking up. Are you surprised by the enthusiasm, the reaction?
No, I'm not surprised at all. It's a bad document. It's a bad document that is not, born out of good faith. It is born out of bullying from America, unfortunately, bullying from Turkey, and Armenia's desperation, brought on to a certain extent by Armenia, successive Armenian government's failure to properly understand one nation, one struggle, have a vision to maximize its resources and understand its own nation. We haven't had that yet, but it will happen.